Remember comparison contrast papers from English class? How you'd have to write about how two things were the same or how they were different. Sometimes I do that as I'm reading the Bible. God will bring two things to mind, and I can do a comparison contrast to them. And it happened when I was reading in the Gospels about the crucifixion of Jesus recently, in Matthew 27. And verses 28 through 29 says, "They stripped Jesus and put a scarlet robe on him. They then twisted together a crown of thorns and set it on his head. Then they put a staff in his right hand. Then they knelt in front of him and mocked him." And so Jesus is there, and they're putting this mock robe on him and a mock crown of thorns, and they're teasing him and they're harassing him. And I thought about the prodigal son. I think he just brought it to my mind. Because in the prodigal son, remember that story, right? There's this young man who's very rebellious, and he runs away from home, but he takes half his father's inheritance as he goes. And then he wastes all of that, and he shames his father's name. And then he comes back to his father to ask for his forgiveness. And when we get to that, the prodigal gets home, and the father puts a fancy robe on him, a nice one, not a teasing one. Instead of a crown of thorns or a staff, he puts a ring on his finger, and instead of crucifying him, he throws a party. And the big difference here is, in the crucifixion, that's what happened when God came to us. And the other, the prodigal son, that's what happens when we come to God. God came to us, and we didn't have it in us to show grace and to show mercy, and we crucified him. And we come to God, and God pours grace and mercy on us. And instead of crucifixion, which we deserve, we get the party we don't deserve. That's called grace. That's something you should never forget. And that's today's Jumpstart.